I do feel a little bit guilty in a way because, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about losing something. Someone, if you will. And let's get right into that. First, I want to take a moment to thank all of my Patreon members for supporting me over there. If you guys want to get to know me on a deeper level, definitely check out my Patreon. I really enjoy talking about my life and sharing exclusive content that I don't share anywhere else. So check it out if you want to get to know me on a deeper level. So, as some of you may know, I grew up in a very rural town, and the town to this day still only has 3,500 people, one stoplight, one grocery store. But I'm really grateful for the home that I grew up in, having 4 acres of land and just surrounded by forests and farmland and beauty and just nature. I'm really grateful for the way I grew up. And from my youngest age, I remember asking my parents for a dog because I just wanted a dog to bring with me on my adventures, walking through the forest or going down and playing by the creek. I didn't have any neighbors right next to me, so I didn't have like a neighborhood to play with. I did live close to a neighborhood that was on the other side of the road from where my house was, but I didn't really have any friends in that neighborhood, maybe 1 or 2. But I never had that actual neighborhood feel, so I spent a lot of time playing by myself growing up, and I just thought having a dog would be so much fun. No joke, you guys, I'd be like 6 years old walking around the forest alone, getting lost sometimes, but always finding my way back home, sometimes after dark, but those were some of the most character building experiences for me. So I asked for a dog for my birthday, up until I finally got a dog. Now for my 11th birthday, which was in 2009, my mom surprised me by picking me up after school and taking me to the Humane Society. And I had no idea what we were doing until we actually got there. And right as we pulled in and I saw the sign, I was so excited because she told me what we were doing and I was just ready to get out of the car and see the doggies. So we go into the Humane Society. Mind you, this is in 2009, so quite a bit ago, 13 years ago to be exact. And as we were walking in, we checked in and everything. We walked into another room where the dogs were. Right at the entrance of the dog section was a kennel that was facing straight towards the door. It was actually a glass door that was separating the rest of the Humane Society from where the dogs were. And I could see this dog as I was walking up to the dog area. As I was walking up to the door, I could hear the dogs barking, and I noticed that this dog was just lying down, very calm and just looking at me. And at the time, he wasn't purebred or anything like that, but something about him really stuck out to me. So as we walked into the door, I was just glued onto him. I wasn't focused on any of the other dogs. It was very noisy with all the dogs barking. I was like, "Hi, buddy." And as soon as I squatted down, he came up to me and touched his little nose to my finger. And it was like the E.T. moment. Like, I knew he was mine from that moment. I think I might have looked around at the other dogs a little bit after I greeted him and met him. But I came back to him and I told him that I wanted to have a playtime with him and a meet and greet. And I just loved him. He was not too energetic, but still had energy, and he wasn't crazy loud and barky, and he was like the perfect dog for me at the time. He had every trait I was looking for, and I just saw a future with him in my life. And I found it really strange, but they warned us that he was very aggressive and just very high-strung, had lots of energy. And from what I saw in him, that was not true at all. And by the way, his name was Bryce. That was the name that they had given him. So from what I saw, Bryce was very calm and just wanted to be pet, and he didn't jump or anything. He was just sniffing around, doing his own thing. So I thought it was weird that they told us that he was so aggressive, almost like they were trying to turn us off of wanting to adopt him. So we looked past what she said, and we told her that we're interested in him and we want to adopt him. And instead of us going home that day with him, she kind of put up a roadblock and was like, "Oh, well, unfortunately we can't let you take him home today, but you're gonna have to come back and do like 2 meet and greets with him, one in public and then one back here before we can give him over to you." And that really hurt my 11-year-old self. Like, I wanted to go home with him, like, what a tease. Who does that? So we went home without the doggy, and we ended up meeting him about a week later. He was actually in a furniture store with 3 other dogs from the shelter, and I went up and greeted him, and he was the same way he was before. They let me walk him around the furniture store, and I still did not get to go home with him that day. And at this point I was like, come on, what's going on, you know? And my parents were as well. They were like, this is really weird, but you know, my son wants the dog, so I'm gonna do what I can to make that happen. So about 2 weeks after that, they invite us back to have our final meet and greet with Bryce. And at this point I'm like, okay, I don't know if we're gonna go home with him, but I wanna see him. So it was another after school thing where my mom picked me up and we went there after school. And I was so happy to see him. I walked him around the shelter, played with him outside, and after I played around with him on the final meet and greet, I went up and asked the lady, my 11-year-old self went up and asked her, can I take him home, please? Like, I really want to take him home. I know he's gonna be a great fit for my family. Just imagine me saying that as an 11-year-old, kind of in an assertive way. And she was like, yeah, I'm still a little worried about how aggressive he can get, but I think today's the day you get to go home with him. And I was like, yay! And my mom was relieved, you know, of course, because she wants me to be happy. And finally we got to take him home that day. As soon as I walked in the door with him, he was smelling everything and sniffing everything. He didn't mark his territory or do anything like that, but he was just immediately at home. And I still remember that day. I'll always remember that day. Okay guys, so fast forward 13 years later, April 4th, 2022. I get a call from my dad, which is kind of weird because, let's face it, my dad really doesn't call me often. So I'm like, okay, let me answer this. And I almost didn't answer it because I had an important interview planned at 2 p.m. that day, and I just wanted to be level-headed for it, and I didn't want any interruptions, and I was still getting ready for that. But I picked up the phone. Immediately I could sense in his tone that something bad had happened, and he said, dude. And I said, hello? He said, I gotta tell you something. It just silence. I'm like, yeah, Dad, what's up? Bruno's gone. I named him Bruno, by the way. I didn't even process the information. It honestly just went straight over my head. I didn't know what to do with that because I knew I had to stay level-headed for this interview. I ended up bombing that interview. I was stuttering, I was anxious, I was going off on tangents, and I'm just really not proud of my performance on that interview. I just really wish I could have reacted a different way, but have you guys ever had situations like that happen where, you know, an unforeseen event happens in your life and you just have to use everything in you to stay on track? Please let me know, because I could definitely use some tips on that. My dad did tell me that he did bury him yesterday, and they're gonna plant a tree on top of him. So I think that's a beautiful idea. I'm starting to get a little bit shaken up just talking about it. That's how you guys can probably tell that I really haven't processed these emotions yet. But I have so many memories with my dog Bruno. I'm gonna share some pictures right here so you guys can see him. You can actually go back to this video right here and see footage of him. So he was 16 years old, guys. He did pass away in his sleep. So basically, my dad saw him fall asleep and then he just never woke up. But he fell asleep on his normal routine and he passed away while my dad was at work and while nobody was home, sleeping, because that's the position that he was in when my dad found him. One thing I do want to say is that I see so many traits of Bruno in my current dog, Lucky. So many traits. It's like shocking sometimes how many ways Lucky reminds me of Bruno, and just the way that he makes his facial expressions. Lucky smiles and his energy, like he'll go from 0 to 100 real quick. I'm just hoping that Bruno's out there looking over Lucky, looking over me, and I do feel a little bit guilty in a way because I moved out to Arizona for college and I kind of left him there. I know that my dad treated him well and still gave him a good life, but I wish I could have been there with him in his last days. Now, this situation really put things into perspective for me and made me think about the fact that Bruno was my last possession, and I hate calling him a possession, but Bruno was mine. They all knew that. My dad knew that. My sister knew that. The whole family knows that. Bruno was mine. He always was mine. And I would much rather him have stayed back in Maryland, where he has a huge backyard and he doesn't have to worry about me being gone or, getting along with other dogs or anything. He's just in his own little world. I really did think about how Bruno was my last possession, and I mentioned this in other videos, but I actually don't have a bedroom in my childhood home anymore. All of my belongings have been minimized to a box, and the box is sitting in my sister's childhood room right now. I do have to say that that is something that is always going to bother me. I wish I was like a lot of other people where I still felt like I could go home for the holidays and feel right at home, but unfortunately I can't. And when I first moved to Arizona, it was a little bit like that. I could go back home. I still had my room. It just reminds me of why I'm on the track that I am and why I've made the decisions that I have to lead me to where I am now. So overall, guys, this was kind of a heavy video. I really just needed to vent to you, so please just have a little bit of patience with me on this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of this. Bruno, if you're up there looking down at me, I love you, buddy, and I miss you. Isn't he such a cute dog? Bruno. He had the best life. The best life. Alright, guys. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.